All right, let's jump right in. Sometimes you find an entire world tucked away inside a single academic paper. And that's exactly what we've got here. It's this incredible story about a group of teachers, a school just bursting with life, and their quiet but powerful rebellion against a huge global problem. It's all about what we choose to measure and what really truly matters. And the title of the paper really says it all, doesn't it? Something that test scores do not show. It gets right to the heart of this massive debate happening in education everywhere. There's this global trend to measure everything with tests, but it often comes at the cost of what makes students unique, their different languages, their cultures. This paper dives headfirst into the human stories that numbers can never, ever capture. And boom, here it is. This is the core idea, said perfectly by Mary, one of the English language learner teachers in our story. This one sentence is basically the whole conflict in a nutshell. The pressure to get good test scores versus the deep, messy, unmeasurable work of helping a student actually succeed in life. So, to really understand what these teachers did, we have to understand the world they were living in. So let's step inside Smith Street Elementary School, a place that is, well, anything but simple. The author calls it a messy school environment, and that feels like an understatement. Think constant changes, new standards, urgent new demands. The students? They come from all over the globe: Brazil, Cape Verde, China, Egypt, and they bring with them these incredibly complex life experiences. We're talking about kids who've lived through war, family separation, refugee camps, and right in the middle of it all, you have this small team of dedicated ELL teachers who, despite being the experts on the ground, are constantly ignored by the people making the big decisions. And this side just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's like two different worlds colliding. On one side, you've got the district, pushing from the top down, test everything, standardize everything, get everyone into the English mainstream as fast as possible. And on the other side, you have the actual reality for these students, this rich, complicated mix of languages, cultures, and deep emotional needs that a standardized test could never even begin to understand. But here's the thing. This pressure cooker at Smith Street, it's not some isolated incident. It's actually a perfect little snapshot of a much, much bigger trend, a truly global phenomenon. The paper gives it this big academic name, globalizing education trends. So what does that actually mean? Well, it's this huge shift happening all over the world where the way we talk about school has been hijacked by the language of business, of the market, even the military. The focus shifts away from things like, creating good citizens in a democracy and lands squarely on economic competition, treating students like human capital that needs to be trained for the job market. And the fallout from this trend is massive. Suddenly, teaching isn't a craft. It's a pre-made package to be delivered. Teachers aren't professionals to be trusted. They're seen as a problem to be fixed. Students and their families get reduced to statistics on a spreadsheet. And maybe the most damaging part, all that beautiful cultural and linguistic diversity we just saw at Smith Street gets reframed as an obstacle, a problem that needs to be solved, instead of a strength to be celebrated. But this is where the story gets really good. Because faced with all this overwhelming global pressure, the teachers at Smith Street didn't just throw up their hands. No, they got organized, they thought deeply, and they fought back with a radically local response. So what did they do? Instead of just getting frustrated, they did something brilliant. They formed their own research group. I mean, think about that. They became researchers of their own work. They designed a whole project focused on what they knew mattered for their students. And here's the absolute game changer. They decided the point wasn't to teach families how the school works, but for the school to learn from the families. And what they created wasn't just, a new set of classroom activities. It was a whole new framework for how they saw their jobs. It was a complete redefinition of what it means to be a teacher and what it really means for a student to be successful. First up, become allies. It's so simple, but so powerful. As one of the teachers, Mary, said, even if I don't speak their language, I want them to know that I am their ally. It's all about building that foundation of trust, especially with parents who might feel totally intimidated or unwelcome in a school setting. Second, they made a promise to care for the whole lives of their children. Another teacher, Carmen, was always reminding the group not to forget about the complex family stuff that kids bring with them to school every day. She felt that sometimes just providing a safe space where a kid feels cared for is way more important than any lesson plan you could ever write. And third, and this might be the most radical idea of all, act as learners, not as the experts. This is a huge, huge shift. Instead of coming in as the all-knowing teacher with all the answers, they flipped the script and deliberately positioned themselves as students of their students' cultures and communities. And this quote from Hannah just hits the nail on the head. They were planning an activity and she just stopped and questioned the whole thing. She worried that even a simple project could accidentally send the message that the school is the expert and the family is just there to receive information. Instead, she pushed them to find a way where the teachers could be the learners, showing that they genuinely valued what the families brought to the table. This table just spells it out perfectly. It's a total transformation. In the standard way of doing things, the teacher's the expert, the family is just a passive recipient, and the school is the only place where real knowledge comes from. But in the Smith Street model, the teacher becomes a learner and an ally, the family becomes a vital source of knowledge, and the school is seen as just one important place of learning among many. It's a fundamental shift in power. So, after hearing this powerful story of local action, what's the big takeaway? It really forces us to zoom out and ask a much bigger question about what school is even for in the first place. So what's the number one thing to take away from all this? Well, it's literally the number one. This story proves that one group of dedicated teachers in one local school can create a powerful human-centered answer to a massive impersonal global trend. It's proof that these top-down systems aren't all powerful. Local, thoughtful human action really, really matters. The author leaves us with this really profound question. In a world that's obsessed with standardization and making everything the same, can our schools do the exact opposite? Can they actually become the places that not only celebrate diversity, but see it as an essential skill for navigating our complicated world? And that really brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave with you. The teachers at Smith Street knew deep down that the stuff that mattered most, trust, a sense of belonging, cultural understanding, that stuff would never ever show up on a test score. So if they're right, if real success can't be measured on a test, what should we be counting instead?